As chicken production on the ranch continues to grow, so is our brooder. Let's go take a tour of how we start our chickens out now out at Harvest Hills Ranch. Hey everyone, Dr. Arland here with Harvest Hills Ranch, and today we're going to take you on a tour of our new chicken brooder. We do a couple of things different here, and you can see this little building behind us. This is how we start out our chicks now. You may have seen some videos in the past when we were just getting our operation going. We were starting these guys out in small troughs, which is an option. It got us going. But we've reached a point now where we want to be able to control things better. We want to be able to give these guys the best starts possible. And we're on our third batch of the season with this new brooder system, and it's making a difference for us. We're producing some really nice birds and really happy to bring these guys to market and share these with you. But I wanted to take you through and just let you see what has gone into this brooder and what the process looks like now. Again, we've just started our last batch of the year here, and so we've got some really small chicks that are only about 3 to 4 days old that you'll see in the remainder of this video. So with that said, let's jump inside and let me give you the tour. Leah in here as she's working with the birds. So Leah, tell us about the new brooder.
Okay guys, so we decided to expand our chicken operation. We couldn't do that with our current system. So with a little bit of imagination and a lot of trust from hubby back there, we actually put in some insulation board, and this will actually help in the winter keep them warm, and in the summer keep them cool. And actually behind you, you can see we have a little AC vent, and then I have the thermal blocking curtains in there and some extra insulation around that. And I also, during the day, several times a day, I'll come through the brooder house. I'll double check. As you notice, we have the thermostat, or the, what do you call it? Thermometers, sorry, on there, so I can make sure I keep everything optimal, not too hot or too cold. So right now it is actually a little bit colder in here than I want it to be, although I'm personally sweating. Whew. They like that 85 to 90 degree temperature when they're this young. So we got them on Thursday, today Saturday, so they're still very young. So I actually did turn on another lamp, and then that way they can spread out. I went ahead and did this beforehand. So I put a nice thick sheet of pine flakes on here, and you want to make sure they're pine flakes and not cedar or any other hardwood, because the sap in there can actually be toxic. The fumes and the off gases from the saps can be toxic to the chicks. So a nice clean source of pine shavings. What that does is it naturally deodorizes the area from their their droppings and keeps the air clean. So, but I do make sure I open up the window several times a day and blow that through. I actually have a fan that blows constantly. I turned it off because it would be loud on the video, but I have this going at all times, and this just helps circulate the air in here. So when I open up that door or open up the windows, it just pushes that stale air out, or any ammonia or anything like that that might be just sitting on top of the chicks. It just blows that right out, and that way they have fresh, crisp, clean air. As we get older, our sensitivity to that smell goes down, or we just get used to it over time. So chicks are, 1,000 times more susceptible and sensitive to it than we are. So I always keep that in mind when I come in here. I do an air check, check the temperature, I let fresh air in all the time. So I already did the flakes for the day. I filled up their food and then put their grid on top. So I'll let Dr. Hill explain what the benefits of the grid is, but they get just a small space right now, and as they grow, their square footage per chick expands as they get bigger. So we'll go over that in just a second. So there you go.
Let me just add to a few things that Leah said here. So one, she mentioned the square footage on this. You'll notice that we've got a little wood mesh chicken wire separation layer here, and on this other side, on the left side of the screen, you'll see there you've got the tarp under that. Well, the reason we do this is that eventually, before these guys get on pasture, they'll have access to the entire inside of the brooder house here, but we slowly expand this out over the weeks. So when they're really young like this, we like to keep them closer together. That way they can stay warm. When they start getting cold, they can bunch together if they need to, but yet they still have enough space to be able to spread out. The general rule that we try to use on this is that we ultimately want to give them about 1 square foot per bird, and we found that this was a big difference maker for allowing us to be able to produce really healthy birds. It gives them such an advantage starting out that when they want to spread out, they can. The other thing that's really helped in that same context, you'll notice this trough style feeder. And one thing you'll notice is that we've got a chick or two that's standing on the edge of it, but
just because they're so small.
As Leah spins that the spinner, we just call that a spinner on top, as she spins the spinner, they're not going to be able to stand on top of that. And what that does, these troughs, we add these troughs in as we go, and this allows the birds to be able to have plenty of room to make sure that they're all consuming as much feed as they need to. We do the same thing with the waters, and just having the extra square footage makes sure that no bird is compromised in having adequate water or feed quality. So that's a big difference maker, because we've learned that if you don't get a good start in that first week, 2 weeks.
Actually, the first 24 hours is the most crucial.
24 hours are really huge, but certainly over the course of that first week or two, if these birds don't start out, they just don't recover. They don't make a nice quality bird that puts on good meat production. So that's key. A couple of other things she did mention, the heat lamps. Let me just touch on the heat lamps here. We can spread those out as we need to because of the board on the side here. If we need to move those around, we can. And then I did want to show you also the thermometers. I shot a little quick on, I just scanned the camera over this a little bit earlier. But you'll notice on this that we have 2 thermometers. So I'm showing you the one right now that's in the ceiling. And that allows us to see, especially in the warmer months, how much heat's accumulating up in the top of the brooder. And then we have the one down low, which is actually where the birds are at. We want to see how that heat accumulation in those warmer months is translating. And then also, when it gets colder, the exact opposite happens, where we start to see that because this is a metal structure, we're going to see some accumulation of colder air. And does that translate to the birds, the chicks down low? Because we need to keep them at an optimal environment as much as possible before we get them out on pasture.
So as the chicks grow, you want to make sure that when they're eating, like this guy is not doing it right. Here, little dude, help me out here. So this little guy, you know, they have that space where they can go down a little bit, but they're not going down and trying to get their food. That actually disrupts their digestion, and they can actually get stuff wedged in their throat. So probably in the next 3 or 4 days, I'll start putting these risers on, and these are completely adjustable. Like the 3rd week, right before they go out, this starts to get a little too low, and then what we'll do is we'll put some boards underneath it and keep raising it. The waters aren't in here right now. I started cleaning them before Dr. Hill walked in, and you know, with those, they start flat, and then as they get taller and grow, we end up with 2 boards underneath them to keep raising them up. You want to make sure they get, the more water they drink, the more food they'll consume, and the more weight gain they have.
Yeah, and so what we try to do is we use the back height, the average back height of the birds.
So this guy's perfect right now.
Right, you can see it's right at back height. We use that as that gets higher. That's how we know to lift the feeders and the waterers up, so that way they're not constantly leaning over to drink and to eat.
Right, and when they get older, they won't be able to fit here anymore, but what'll happen is they'll end up jumping over it and just hitting this, and this is the deterrent. This is also, I hate wasting feed because that's just money, right? So this will keep, except for the first 3 or 4 days, they can unfortunately still get onto this, but what happens is they no longer can scratch, which is a natural instinct for a chicken. They can do that when they go out to pasture, but when they're, I'm sorry, little boo. Hi, baby, I'm sorry. Once they, get a little bit taller, they can no longer get in there and then scratch and throw the food into the ground. So we've seen a lot less food waste with this system, and that he keeps getting under my hand. Food waste with this system, so yeah. I really like it.
So with that being said, guys, I want to thank you for taking the time to just take the tour on our new brooder. We were excited to get this into operation. This entire building is actually a conversion. It had an entirely different use. It was truly nothing more than a storage shed. And Leah kept poking at me saying, that needs to be our brooder. That needs to be our brooder.
I was like, no, that'll never work. It'll never be too expensive to convert.
Yeah, I pushed back on it, but she was right at the end of the day.
Shocker.
And
just kidding.
We got the insulation in here, and it has turned out to be a really nice brooder, and the birds that we're producing really are evidence for that. So with that being said, guys, thanks for joining us today. If you liked the video, go ahead and make sure you give us that thumbs up. Go ahead and hit a like. And also, if you know other individuals that are interested, and maybe you're interested in knowing more about how your food is produced and how you can do it with uncompromising ethics, then subscribe to the channel. We'd love to show you more about regenerative agriculture and what we do out at Harvest Hills Ranch. I'm Dr. Arland Hill with Leah Hill, and we'll see you guys soon. Take care, everyone.
Bye.